Hello and welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. I'm Kim and I'm already out in the garden and I'm working today and I just wanted to bring you with me. I've been away for about a week. My family has been maintaining the garden for me, watering and harvesting green beans mostly, but now I'm back. It rained most of the week, so my garden is flourishing. And I just want to bring you along and show you some of the things that's going on in the garden. I've already picked a few things, so I'll show you pictures of the things that I've picked today. And I already have some things in this container here. So we've already picked some green beans. We've already picked broccoli. And now I'm getting ready to work on some collards. I have collards growing in a couple different methods. I have them in my raised beds, and I also have collards in my green stalks. And so we're going to pick those today. And this is my first harvest this year of collards. And we'll probably have them for dinner tomorrow. So let's just go ahead and get into the collards. If you've spent any time on my channel, you know I love to pick my collards and all of my greens when they're very young, more like baby size leaves. So let's just take a look at this. This is the size collard I like to pick. Some people like to get them really big and meaty and leathery and thick. That's not how I like my collards. I like to cook them where they melt in your mouth, and you need to pick them young and tender like this. So we're going to just jump right in. I'm going to try to get a little closer to the collard so you can see what I'm doing. And this is a very small patch right here. But I picked them. Now I'm going to cover up my basket here with the other things that I've already picked, because I'm going to put them all here in the same basket. But I will show you at the end of the video everything that I harvest today. But for the collards, I pick them out here and I go ahead and cut them up into the bite sizes I want them in, versus taking them indoors and having to do all of that inside. It saves a step for me. So let me pick a few leaves. And I do this the exact same way with my Dinosaur Kale. So if you've watched me pick that before, then, or I should say harvest that before, you know I don't like them to get very big. I grow Morris Head collard greens versus the Georgia collard greens and some of the other ones. I prefer the Morris Head because it's a big leafy type of collard greens, and it doesn't really head up, if that makes sense. A lot of people pick the outside limbs of the Georgia collards and they pick on them all season long. When I pick it all the way down, and then it continues to send new stems up the center. So that's why I like Morris Head and collards. But here's a small stack of collard greens right here. I just like to fold them over. And I've lost my scissors. Thank you. My daughter brought them to me. So let me just put the basket up here so you can see the couple as I'm cutting them. But I cut them into probably 1 inch, 2 inch pieces. They're already cut down to size. And I only pick very short stems. I don't like stems in my greens, so they're very short, but I'll keep this. That's tender. When you start getting the bigger stems, I'm sorry, I just don't like them. They're just too much to chew on for me. And I'm going to do that for this patch. So I'm going to get these picked. And at the end of this project, I'll just quickly show you what I've picked. Now, I normally wouldn't have this basket up in my lap. I just want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And now I'm just going to go do it and not going to worry about the camera. I am now over to the next area where I have some of my collard greens. This is my green stalk, and this one sits on the patio to my she shed. And so this one actually doesn't get a lot of sun, but it's just enough morning sun and just enough evening sun to make it nice and happy. And the collard greens in this one are, okay, I planted them way too dense. So I definitely need to get these cut back so they can get some air and some sun to some of the smaller plants in here. So we'll do the same process like this. That's big enough. I don't need my collard greens any bigger than that. So let's get these out. and harvested the exact same way that I did my raised bed. And you'll see here that there's way, oh my goodness, I planted these so dense. A little bit more, you're gonna say, you know, hey, are you sure you've been gardening for about 15 years? But I have. Planting them dense just keeps them from getting super big. But you still have to thin them every so often or they won't continue to grow. And I don't like big collard greens, but I really didn't mean to sow them this dense. When I first sowed them, I didn't have good germination, so I sowed some more. And then, of course, they sprouted. That's the luck of the draw. I will finish this one and then we'll move over to the tower that has nothing but collard greens in it. I am now over to my GreenStalk that is full of collard greens. Now I do have carrots in the top, and in the very bottom I have some bok choy. Some of it's going to seed, but in the middle, four, I can't count, 3 tiers of collard greens that I will be picking for the first time today. So I'm going to go ahead and start picking those. And these are growing a little differently, and it's because they have a different amount of sun. And so the more sun you have, of course, the faster your collard greens are going to grow. But at the same time, you want to make sure that it's not too much sun where this is going to make them bolt. And usually collard greens can handle it. Collard greens like frost. They like cooler weather for sure, but if you can see here, I picked this one all the way down, but in the center, it's going to grow more leaves that I'll be able to pick later. But I plan to pick these all the way back. And the good thing is I can sit on my little Willy toy here and just spin it around to the greens. Now in this tower, I believe I transplanted a lot of these collard greens versus starting them from seed. So these are going to look very different from the ones I started from seeds. Same process, I just kind of fold it up and cut it down into about 1-inch strips so that it's ready to be cooked in the pot as soon as I get them washed up. I don't put any type of pesticides on my vegetables, so that means there are going to be bugs on them, and that's okay. As long as they're not cabbage worms. Cabbage worms got to go. I picked those off. I have tons and tons of birds around my garden, and I believe the birds are keeping those worms down for me. Plus, I released about 1,500 ladybugs into the garden as well. So I believe those are helping with some of the larvae, eggs. I don't know. I just feel like there's such a good balance right now in my garden with the beneficial insects versus the ones you don't want, and the birds. So the balance is great, and I am seeing very, very little bug damage. And so that's a good thing. So I don't put pesticides on it, but they still need to be washed, right? There's spiders on here and all kinds of other insects. So you really need to wash your vegetables very good before you start cooking them. But I'm going to get working on this tower and I'll be right back. So we're finished with all of those collards over there. And now I'm going to take care of this Dinosaur Kale. I didn't pick it last week. I picked the curly kale, but not the Dinosaur Kale. So we're going to pick the Dinosaur Kale next. It's the same process. So I won't waste your time as I'm cutting them off or pulling them off and cutting them down into 1-inch pieces for better, in my mind, easier eating. So I'm going to do that next, and I will at least try to bring you back and show you the harvest. You know, it might be faster to cut versus pull. Oh yeah, that's faster. So once I've cut it, I'm just going to down into about 1 inch. If I don't throw it all over the ground first. That's the process. A week ago, I cut out some of my Napa cabbage and I cut out 2 heads. And with that 90-degree weather we had a couple of weeks ago, it is causing this to bolt. So I have 2 more that has a stem coming up the center of the head, and this is where the seeds would be. So it will flower and seeds would be right in the top. But I don't want that to happen. I want to preserve this. I don't want to lose these heads because the temperature's heating up. I can't get another round of these in before the summer months. So I want to preserve this. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. Kimchi would be my preferred choice. I don't have the ingredients for kimchi right now, so but I'm going to cut it and let's get it into the house, get it cleaned up and in the refrigerator, and then I'll determine how to preserve it. But I'm going to cut out 2 more heads. And this is actually Bilko. Bilko is the type. Now this one has some insect damage to it on some of these leaves, but I'm sure I can get some good off of it. And let's cut out 1 more. And again, it's coming up right in the center with a flower, which means it's bolting or going to seed. So it's finished growing in its mind and it wants to reproduce by having seeds. Oh, my ladybug's been hanging out here. So I released 1,500 ladybugs into the garden to help with those unwanted pests. All right. There are my 2 heads of Bilko Napa cabbage. Now I still have 4 heads in here, so we will be eating Napa cabbage over the next couple of weeks so that we don't lose this harvest. Okay, I've finished harvesting all of my collard greens as well as my kale and my mustard greens. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to remove all the mustard greens because they were going to seed. They were flowering in the middle, so they were bolting or going to seed. So I removed all of the mustard greens throughout this entire tower. And I replanted or re-sowed the mustard greens in every open spot that I have. Now, part of re-sowing them, I wanted to add a little bit of nutrition back to the tower. So I added some organic land and sea. It's a gourmet compost that's got, I think, what's in there? Lobster and crab meals in here. So it just happens to be what I have on hand, and it's a brand and a particular type I've been meaning to try. So I put some of that in each of the pockets, as well as I topped off some of the kale pockets as well. And then I put the seeds in off camera because I forgot to turn it on. And then I also added just a little bit of worm castings, and I kind of just mixed it in and it's ready to go. And this tower here, I haven't done anything yet, but I'm going to add a little bit of this gourmet compost, this organic land and sea compost to each of the pockets. It's kind of like a top dressing if I was in, my raised bed gardens or, right into the ground, just to provide some ongoing nutrition. The pockets are pretty full. It's not like they need it, so I'm just going to take a small handful and add it to each of the pockets. Not the ground, the pockets. So I'm going to have to work on my technique. There we go. That's better. So I'm going to do this all the way around. So now I've top dressed. These towers are ready to go and continue to grow. All I got left to do is water it. So I'm finished with these 2 towers. Let's go take a look at the overall harvest today. Here it is, today's harvest. I tell you, every week the harvest is getting larger and larger. I mean, like, look at these strawberries, right? A whole bowl of strawberries and whole bowls of kale and a whole bowl of collard greens. So this is this week's harvest. Take a look at the spread. I have a Napa cabbage in the back. I have bok choy, strawberries, dinosaur kale, broccoli, curly kale, and curly mustard greens right here. I have collards over there. The girls had some flowers. And in the very front are all my different beans. I have dragon tongue beans. I have green beans. I have gold beans. I have purple beans. And the handful of the sweet peas that I have left. That's all the girls left me to video. They ate the rest. And they ate about a third of the strawberries as well. But this is this week's harvest. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share. Share these videos with your friends if you think they can find them beneficial or if you think they would enjoy me harvesting from my garden. Thanks again, and until next time, bye.